Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Investing Forum. I'm your host, Pat Funaro, and today I'm excited to have a very special guest in the studio here with me. For those of you who may not know me, I've founded a company called Home Remedies in 1998, and to date, we've purchased and sold over 115 residential properties and continue to focus on high-quality rehabs. I'm also a real estate broker and owner of North Atlantic Realty, where my agents and I not only list my own properties for sale, but also list and negotiate short sales on behalf of my clients who are facing foreclosure. I'm also a real estate investing coach and have recently joined the faculty at Brookview Finance Club as a real estate success coach. Today's guest is someone I've known all my life and have a great deal of respect for, and he's been a mentor to me too. Many of you know him as the founder and CEO of Brookview Financial, a leading rehab lending company. He helped me get started in my rehab business over 12 years ago. He's a trained CPA, has an MBA from Columbia University, and has over 20 years experience in the finance field. I'm also very excited that I'm working with him on his newest venture, the Brookview Finance Club, which I hope he'll talk about maybe a bit today. So without further ado, let me welcome AJ Funaro from Brookview Financial.
Well, thanks, Pat. Congratulations on all the rehabs you've done, and great job with that. And I know I hear that through the grapevine in terms of the quality of work and the people that you've ended up helping and living in these houses, first-time home buyers. And I also know that through your North Atlantic Realty that you've actually helped people that were in foreclosures and got them out of some pretty challenging times. So kudos to you, because you have a great reputation in your marketplace. And entrepreneurship is really very important in this country, and we're depending on it, and you are a terrific entrepreneur, so I'm glad to be here with you.
Well, it's great to have you. So one of the most challenging aspects of this rehab business, as we all know, is finding the money. And one of the most challenging aspects for me was also finding the money, and you at Brookview helped get me started, as well as thousands of other investors through the years. So I'd like for you to tell me and our listeners just a little bit more about the history of your company and how and why you started it.
Be happy to, Pat. Actually, I started Brookview Financial in 1992, and a little bit about my background. As you mentioned, I do have a CPA, and back then, actually, when I first graduated from college, I was an auditor, and I audited banks and worked for one of the big 6 accounting firms and banks and real estate companies and so forth. And then, as you mentioned, I did go to a business school, and I worked on Wall Street. I was mostly in the merger and acquisitions area, and that was a tremendous learning experience for me, but there was something missing. And as you know, our family has always been in entrepreneurship, and our dad was, and our sister just won an award for being the CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in her area. And so it's just in our blood. And I knew I had to do something more, and I got great experience working in New York, but I wanted to give back. And I wanted to really touch things, and I wanted to help people maybe bring the capital and the experience I learned when I was in New York and bring that to Main Street. So that's why I set Brookview Financial up back in, as I said, 1992.
So tell us a bit about how you decided to get into the lending business, and in particular rehab financing.
What's really interesting is I didn't set out to say, okay, I'm going to be in the rehab lending business. In fact, I didn't even know what rehab loans were, and I didn't have a mortgage background at all, and other than the times that I was auditing those banks and so forth. But we did some LBOs and management buyouts, and there's some very happy people in Midland, Michigan, for example, on the capital we put together. But that was really exciting. But I have to tell you, and maybe a little bit by accident, I don't know how luck happens sometimes, but we had some money, and I had built some capital, and we were always open to new ideas and new investments. And one day I get a call from a mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker, he was in Connecticut, and he said, well, hey, I have this opportunity, so-and-so wants to renovate a house, and they have good credit, and what do you think? Do you want to make the loan? I'm like, okay, fine. And so I make one loan. And then I get another call, and all right, so I make 2 loans, and so on and so forth. And the word started getting out that, okay, this guy, AJ from Brookview, he's willing to make loans to people that are interested in buying and renovating houses. And so I guess there was a tremendous need for that. And so I actually, back then I was using all my own capital and had a pretty aggressive 7-figure amount of money out in the street. And I said, maybe there's something here. Maybe I need to study this a little bit more and not just be a passive investor, and maybe there's a business opportunity here. And so that's what I did. Pat, as you know, we together, to a large extent, went around the country and started just listening to people and listening to some of the leading teachers out there and getting smart on the industry and all that and trying to understand this business. And I was looking at it from more of a national perspective, and you were looking at it really to maybe get into business yourself. And I have to say, the thing that impressed me the most as we traveled the country and we talked to people, and I think I was a very good listener, was the people. 99.9% of the people we met, all they were trying to do is make a better life for themselves and their families. They were hardworking, they're studying at nights and taking courses on weekends and so forth, and they had the heart. And they just needed a little bit of guidance to get them to the next level. And they really are true entrepreneurs. That's when I was sold on the business. That's when I said, you know what, I'm home. This is a place that I just have to be and I have to focus on, because, you know, it's hard enough out there in your day-to-day, job, but these people are out there and said, you know what, I want to make something better for myself and my family. I said, I want to figure out how to help these people.
Okay, so how did you figure it out? How did you learn how to help rehabbers?
Okay, so now I knew where I wanted to be. Now how do you get there, right? And why was it that the capital was so hard to find? Why was it that they couldn't just go down to their local bank or go to their mortgage broker and so forth and get capital for this? And so I had to become a student, and I studied the market. And I learned a number of different things. For example, one was that the model for financing rehab lenders was wrong. And what I mean by that is there are three primary functions in the mortgage business. And one is the ownership function, so whoever owns the paper, and it could be an institution and so forth, particularly if it was a security, the servicing function, and then you have the origination function, right? And it used to be years ago, if you wanted to go finance a business or you wanted to go buy your house, what did you do? You went into a community bank, right? And that community bank had all those three functions under one roof. So the originator, the account manager, if you will, worked for that institution, and there was a relationship, and you know what? They probably knew you, or they knew your kids, or you went to the same place of worship or something. You were a phone call away, and they knew who you were. And so there was a relationship there. And once they underwrote you, then they made the loan, and that loan was actually serviced by them, and it was owned by them, and the loan wasn't sold. It was a whole loan sitting on their books. So it was a relationship. And I was really attracted to that model, because what I saw was, now that you had the three functions all split up and you had the advent of the mortgage brokers, and there's a lot of mortgage brokers that we have really good experience with and who refer us business, but I can also say that there's also a lot that were not properly trained and were not doing what they needed to do. And so we were very attracted to the model where it was all under one roof and going back to that old style of relationship lending. And because the reality is, when we're financing somebody in terms of buying a house and renovating that house, we're really financing their business. And it's a business-to-business loan. And to do that properly, which we can talk about, but you have to understand the nature of the business, and you have to develop the relationship. If they need some training, you have to help them, and you have to guide them and mentor them. And that relationship from start to finish is really, really important in order to be successful in this particular aspect of the lending business. So that's what I set out to do. How can we go back to the old style of relationship lending? But that wasn't enough. The second thing we had to do was to also supplement that with systems. And that's so important, is to implement systems to run your business so that they can provide checks and balances so nothing gets out of control, so to speak. And so you have a methodology to not only run the operations, but also a check in case something was going one way or the other that shouldn't have, and you keep down the middle. And so that was the origins. And I set out, can we do this on a national scale? Others had tried it. HUD, for example, had a program called 203K for investors, and it didn't work. They made some mistakes on the underwriting and so forth. And so I set out to build a model with certain algorithms that we knew we could do this on a national scale. And that was the origins.
So that's great. You figured out a way to help investors all over the country.